Beautiful day here near downtown Vancouver, Canada. We're checking out the vintage electric Scrambler. It's part of their 72 volt performance series. You could find the Roadster, the Shelby, basically the same platform, but if you go for the Scrambler, you're gonna get these knobby tires, this mesh covering on the headlight, and that nice yellow. It's really got this race-inspired look, and with that inverted suspension fork, 60 millimeters of travel, it's actually very comfortable. I've been zipping around on the streets, kind of going up and down the sidewalks and a little bit of off-road, and I am just so impressed. This thing is incredibly powerful and just solid feeling. It weighs about 81 pounds, which may sound like a lot, but it's actually 4 pounds lighter than when I covered it back in 2018. The big upgrades here are the 72 volt system. It's going to be more efficient and more powerful. This thing is over a kilowatt hour of capacity. So 72 volts, roughly 16 amp hours. So plenty of juice, and you're going to need it because it's got a throttle, it's got torque sensing pedal assist, and this motor can put out up to 180 newton meters of torque. It's 3 times more than in the past. It looks the same, it's still Crystalyte, but they've custom tuned it to be higher torque, and that's because these things ship, it's like street mode, which means class 2. You've got a trigger throttle right here, and you've got torque sensing pedal assist, so you're legal. It goes up to 20 miles per hour, or they tune it for your geography. Here in Canada, it's 500 watt nominal. If you are in the United Kingdom, it might be 250 watt nominal, but with that high torque, it gives you that really fast performance zippy feel, which is wonderful for a bike that's a little bit heavier, and a bike that, although you do have adjustable saddle here, it's the kind of thing that feels a little bit more like a motorcycle. You know, it kind of resembles a motorcycle, kind of a moped. I think it's actually a lot cooler than a moped, and I just love the way these things are laid out. It's got this custom battery case, it's aluminum alloy housing, keeps that weight low and center. Here's the charge port, get that plug cover, and it is directly in the path of that crank arm, and I would cycle it backwards and show you, but if I do that, we're gonna get pedal lock on this side. So we've still got the center mount kickstand, which is great. It supports the weight of the bike, but you can see here that, you know, that's gonna collide if you walk the bike back out of a garage or something similar. I got to check out the charger when I was back at the shop. The thing weighs about 2.8 pounds. It's fairly large, but it's really unique. You can adjust the charge rate between 1 and 5 amps. Charging faster can be hard on cells, so it's nice that you could take a bit longer and go at, 2 amps, for example, and then you can fill the battery to 100% or set it to just do 80%, which again isn't going to strain the battery as much. Storing lithium-ion batteries in a cool, dry location is best. Extreme heat can degrade the cells and you won't get as many full charge cycles, and extreme cold can kind of stunt them. Now, one of the drawbacks of this bike is the battery's connected to the frame at all times. You can't really take it off, which means you need to put the bike somewhere comfortable for the battery, and you need to park near a charging outlet. So it's a bit less convenient, and that weight can't really be removed if you're lifting this onto a bike rack or a car rack to transport it. This is a single speed bicycle, so when I talked about using the throttle, you've got a 16 tooth sprocket in the rear, 39 tooth aluminum alloy chainring up front, and there's no derailleur. There's no internally geared hub or anything. It's just that single speed. So the chain is really tight. It's not going to bounce up and down. And here you can see this sliding dropout, and it's got that steel washer. That's going to keep it from chewing into the frame. When we're talking about this much power, that's really important. Coming back to the motor itself, this is a gearless direct drive motor with regenerative braking. So that's excellent. You're going to recapture some of the power. It's just super silent. There are no gears rubbing in there. The wheels and axles are extra sturdy on this thing. We have boost hub spacing up front, so it's wider. It offers a sturdier spoke bracing angle, and it's a 20 millimeter through axle. I'm used to seeing, up to 15 millimeters on downhill mountain bikes, so this is incredible. In the rear, we have a 12 millimeter threaded axle, and that's important because the bike is heavy and it actually offers higher top speeds. You can pay $150 for their speed chip, and it unlocks a 40 mile per hour top speed for off-road use or private property. It's just incredible. I also want to call out these leather oversteer bumpers, so you're not going to bang up your hydroformed aluminum alloy frame if you're oversteering. But it does, this thing doesn't have the tightest turning radius. You can see it kind of knocks right there, so I end up doing multi-point turns when I'm trying to get it off the dock. About $7,000 for this bike, as you see, which is, to me, it's pretty amazing because that's what the price was 3 years ago. And, you know, the world's changed a little bit. So that was, you know, again, pretty impressive to me. You're going to have to spend $199 on shipping to get it to you, unless you live in the Bay Area. San Jose is where these guys are based, and I think they do some deliveries for 75 bucks in the Bay Area, or you can pick it up, which is pretty nice. Otherwise, you're paying a little bit for shipping. Of course, with this kind of weight and this speed, you need excellent brakes. So we've got 3-finger levers, Promax Lucid with a big reservoir here, extra thick rotors, 203 millimeters up front, 160 in the rear. So a little bit smaller back here. You'll notice that weight sort of shifts forwards when you stop, and you might have a little bit of dive with this suspension fork. It is adjustable here, though. We've got some rebound adjust, and you can dial in the preload. Interesting that you need a tool for this. I'm used to mountain bikes where there's a little lever, but this is just a lot beefier. And coming back down here to the rotor, with that larger surface area, you're going to have better cooling and just a better mechanical advantage over these tires. These are the Schwabe Blackjack Active Line with K-Guard, so we have puncture protection. And then just look at the width of the rims. They're a little bit wider, and they've gone with different gauge spokes, so kind of 14 very standard up front, and then 12 in the rear to be extra sturdy to handle the pressure that motor exerts. Pretty standard 170 millimeter forged aluminum alloy crank arms, and then these vintage looking pedals. Honestly, not my favorite. They're pedals with bigger surface area and still have that nice traction, but I suppose if you step in mud or snow, it's going to press right through. I just feel like they're a little bit narrow, so I would look at some of the Welgo magnesium or aluminum alloy like BMX pedals. You can get silver or black. They would look really nice here. Other upgrades for this bike, they have an optional rear rack. They have these pannier like saddlebags that you can get. They even have a suspension seat post, and the specs on this, it's a rigid post that comes stock, 27.2 millimeter diameter, very standard. You know, if you are going to pedal this like a bike, being able to dial that in for your leg to get like full leg extension is going to feel a lot better than some of those other motorcycle inspired bikes that have a long banana kind of, you know, long saddle. All you can do on those is slide your body back and forth. I'm just going to power on the display here. Comes to life pretty quickly, and then if I hold that up arrow for a couple seconds, the backlighting comes on. You can see an icon there. I'm doing that because I want to show you this 6 LED Roxen rear light. This used to be a Supernova E3 with only 3 LEDs, so you've got twice the light. Looks like it's fairly visible from the side and fairly aimable. Keep in mind, if you're wearing a longer coat, it could hang down, it could block that light, so that's one of the considerations I'd make. And then the headlight, this is 600 lumen Cree LED, ultra bright, and I just love the look of this thing, and the housing, really nice. Some of the other touch points here, we've got a low rise swept back handlebar. By the way, this bike does only come in one frame size. That's another one of the little trade-offs. But I want to compliment the grips. These are really nicely done. Got black leather with locking rings, adjustable reach on those brake levers we were talking about earlier, and that is what activates your regenerative braking. As we come down here though, you can see, you know, these wires are a little bit exposed, right? And that's going to make the bike a little bit easier to work on, but I just want to point that out so you're not getting those snagged. Just kind of keep an eye on all this stuff. I love that they've got a fuse right here built into the battery pack and up to the display panel. So we talked about pressing that power button here. It says M, and if we tap it again once the bike is on, we're going to change some of the readouts. So right now it's on your current ride speed and we're in miles per hour. If I tap M, we're going to see average speed, max speed, odometer, trip distance, trip time, and back to speed. The up or down adjusts your assist level, so we can go to 0. And if we do that, you know, there's no throttle operation. Basically, the throttle is dependent on your assist level. So 1, we're going to have the lowest level of assist, the lower power, lower top speed, and the throttle's going to work, but it's going to be kind of limited. If you really want that power and that speed, you need to go all the way up to level 5. And this is one of the areas where, for me, it'd be kind of nice if I could, you know, turn off pedal assist completely and just rely on the throttle. But this is a torque sensing setup, so it's not like a cadence sensor where you're just turning the cranks and all of a sudden it's going to kick out of control. This feels really natural and dynamic, so that's great. I mentioned holding the up button turns the lights on and off, and holding up and down simultaneously gets into the settings menu, so we can see wheel size. I'll tap the power button, the input. We've got the brightness on the display, 3 levels on that. miles or kilometers. We can change on the next menu, and then a light adjustment, and then we're back to the wheel size. We hold the power button again, and we're going to exit. I kind of like this. You know, it feels like it has a solid like glass front and this aluminum alloy bezel. It's fairly reachable, kind of like the thumb throttle. Your thumb just goes to the right place. There's even a walk mode, so I'm going up this dock ramp, and if I hold the down arrow, the bike will start to push itself. Again, very handy with a bike that's a little bit heavier like this. Walk mode's, it's pretty fast. I think it has to do with, you know, how the bike is geared, and since there's only one speed on this thing, I mean, it can really feel comfortable and natural at these lower assist levels. With the torque sensor, it's just really smooth. You know, I'm find that I'm going up to those higher levels of assist just for the thrill, and because it's so quiet. But on a crowded bike path, you know, I'm kind of, maybe I'm even using the throttle. It's a variable speed trigger throttle, so if you press it a little bit, you're not going to get out of control. And go ahead and switch hands, just ease into it. And I have taken us up to the highest level of assist now, just so that I have access to that full range of power. And I'm definitely noticing when I brake, the bike is kind of easing a little bit faster to a stop than I'm used to. Yeah, I definitely noticed the regen. It's something to kind of get used to, but it makes sense on a heavier bike like this. I've actually got some energy to recoup. I do a little bit of off-roading. Really nice. There you go. Good brake test there. It's nice to have a bike that's completely, you know, legal here, that's spec'd for Canada. Of course, they can upload those different tunes at the shop, or you can do it yourself. I've heard it's a little bit finicky, but it's doable. You definitely want to have a bike rack that's more of like a platform for this, because it is a bit heavier and there's nowhere to really grab the frame, but it's liftable. Puts a smile on your face. This thing is fast. Thank you so much. So quiet and smooth. Really good climber. Definitely noticed the increased torque. Well guys, it's been a beautiful day. I want to thank Dragon Boats BC for letting me use their dock here. It's a little bit more quiet, had some space. If you get the chance, come down and rent a boat. I'm sure they'd love to see you. Very friendly people. I also want to thank Vintage Iron. They're right downtown Vancouver, and they have all kinds of like motorcycle inspired electric bikes. Really nice people, and they answered questions for me, made sure the bike was set up right. This is a free review as always, just checking out cool bikes and trying to give you guys a really thorough look. Back at ElectricBikeReview.com, you could compare this bike to like the prior year models or other bikes, you can check out the forums and ask people about the best accessories, and then just share your feedback. You know, it's about having fun. I love you guys. Ride safe out there, especially with the optional, you know, high speed mode on this bike. And we'll see you next time.